Look, if cruise ships had personalities, I think the Carnival Miracle would be like your eccentric aunt, right? The sort of aunt who collects vintage art and makes a killer grilled cheese. She also still knows how to throw a party, that's for sure. And she might not be the newest or the flashiest in the fleet, but she is delightfully nostalgic. She's also surprisingly entertaining. And she's definitely full of hidden gems. So if you're curious about what to expect aboard this Spirit class classic of a vessel known as Carnival Miracle, I'd say here's the deep dive you didn't know you needed from somebody who was just recently on the Carnival Miracle himself. I had an experience that I want to detail for you from A to Z and everything in between, including a little bit later. I'm going to share with you how I was solicited drugs for the first time in my solo cruise travel history. That was quite the experience. The Carnival Miracle made her grand debut in 2004 as part of Carnival's Spirit class ships. Now, these are known for being sleek, long, and built to slip through the Panama Canal like a cruise ninja type ships. Unlike some of Carnival's larger ships, the Miracle carries a cozy 2,100 guests, which gives it a more personal and less theme park at sea feel. Despite being one of the older gals in the fleet, Carnival's kept Miracle in a, we'll just say, decent shape through refurbishments, most notably a dry dock in 2020 that gave her a big tech upgrade and a few new favorites like Guy's Burger Joint, and a spring 2025 refurbishment that not only plussed up some common areas but also definitely elevated the mini golf area and changed up a bit of the nightclub. She primarily sails the West Coast, offering trips from Long Beach to Mexico, Hawaii, and Alaska. Yeah, this girl's got some layers to her for sure. My cruise was taking me to Mexico from the port of Long Beach, no doubt Carnival's hub here on the West Coast and in my own personal backyard. It's always nice to be able to pick up a different Carnival ship almost any day of the week, it seems like, out of this destination. The boarding process was relatively simple, very quick, and within just a few minutes of arriving at my designated time, I was on my way to the Carnival Miracle for the very first time. I'd heard a lot about this ship. In particular, I spoke to people who are Carnival diehards that have been a part of the Carnival family at large for decades, who all say this style of ship, the Spirit class ship, is broken up in a way that is one of the very best that Carnival has ever done. Now, I myself am a fan more so of the ships that are sort of, I guess, secondary to the most recent as of right now. So the Excel class ships sort of round things out at the top, and the Vista class ships sort of sit in between, just behind that. Now, that Vista class model is something I really like. The Carnival Panorama, the Italian ships that Carnival has now brought into the fleet structure, as well as things like the Carnival Vista itself. Those formats are fantastic, but I have to say, I get it now. The Carnival Miracle is split up in such a way where no one area ever feels really all that chaotic. It never feels all that impacted. And if a Carnival ship or any cruise ship can do that, that is a huge win in my eyes. And I noticed it immediately upon boarding. Sort of on that note, let's continue to talk about the design of this ship. You step aboard the Carnival Miracle, you're going to feel like you've wandered into some sort of like fantasy novel, I guess, maybe an elaborate fever dream. I don't even know. This ship was so wild in the way that it looked, and this extended on throughout the entire vessel. This whole ship is themed around famous fictional characters from legends, myths, and literature. We're talking names like Horatio Hornblower, Robin Hood, Sherlock Holmes, Mr. Hyde, yes, that Dr. Jekyll guy too, even Dr. Frankenstein. The creative mind behind this wild and whimsical decor, well, that would be Joe Farkas, Carnival's longtime interior designer, resident imagination overdrive wizard when it comes to a space like this. His vision was to create a floating world of fantasy. And love it or hate it, it is unforgettable, that's for sure. I'd say in this space, think ornate colors, right? Sweeping staircases, golden statues, and other statues with a taste for the dramatic. It's camp, it's kitsch, it's Carnival, that's for sure. I've been saying in some recent Carnival videos, these older ships, as weird as they are, and I mean, I guess you could say they're artistic, yeah, sure. They're very uniquely designed in terms of these elements. As weird as they are, when these ships get sunset, right? When these ships get retired, I think I am going to kind of miss this. As ridiculous as things look and as over the top as the themes are, I am going to miss this level of gaudy. There's something charming about it. There's something endearing about it. I can't put my finger on it. I look at this and I think about nostalgia. I think about the cruise ships of yesteryear. And I know these ships aren't going to last forever. I know that they're getting long in the tooth already. So I definitely enjoyed this over-the-top theming vibe all throughout the ship. All right, let's turn our attention to the food at this point. The Carnival Miracle, while it might not have the full smorgasbord of dining options that you'd find on, say, those newer ships, those great big behemoths that Carnival has rolled out in recent years, I'd say don't let that fool you. She does deliver on flavor. And I want to give you a breakdown of some of the places where my taste buds hung out and where yours will probably do the same if you decide to sail on board the Carnival Miracle. First up is the classic choice, Guy's Burger Joint. No doubt this is a crowd favorite for a reason. Juicy burgers, melty cheese, crispy fries. It's a miracle in itself, isn't it? Yeah. The greasy spoon known as Guy's Burger Joint, Guy Fieri's creation on the Carnival ships, is something that has become such a staple of the experience overall on Carnival now, and is a go-to reliable place to grab yourself a burger and, hit up that toppings bar for sure. Right around the corner from Guy's happens to be Blue Iguana Cantina, the other sort of staple of the experience anymore on Carnival. Tacos, burritos, all made fresh while you wait, plus a salsa bar that'll make you want to try every combination, no doubt. And the pro tip, as always, something people never seem to remember, is that Blue Iguana Cantina often open for breakfast on all of these ships, and it was here too. Huevos Rancheros is my go-to in the morning, and of course I had to hit it up, so I encourage you to do the same. If you want to avoid the dining room in the morning or the crazy buffet, I'd say head on over to Blue Iguana Cantina and get yourself some breakfast on the go. Now, speaking of that buffet, the Lido Marketplace, yeah, it is here on the Carnival Miracle. It has its rotating stations, its comfort food staples, desserts that'll test your willpower, no doubt. But as always, the Lido Marketplace and the buffet in general on Carnival is very lackluster, especially when I compare it to all the other cruise lines. It gets the job done. There's plenty of food. You won't go hungry. Is it the greatest of selections? I'll leave that up for debate. Now, speaking of the main dining room, look at this. Yeah, I'm not kidding. This, what a spectacle to walk into in terms of theming here in the main dining room. Look, traditional cruise dining can be found here with rotating menus, obviously plenty of options for all dietary preferences, and I would say never skip the sea day brunch in here. The sea day brunch is always one of my favorite things to do on a Carnival cruise, and they nailed it here in this main dining room as well. Now, this main dining room is themed around the Roman god of wine and celebration. It's called the Bacchus Dining Room. It does feature grape and vineyard motifs, including purple-hued grape wall sconces that reflect the theme. The dining room does span 2 decks, and it offers contemporary Italian design with accents of Roman mythology. Quite the spectacle to behold. And from the main dining room, we turn our attention to the upcharge environment, the steakhouse, Nick and Nora's steakhouse to be exact. This is inside the funnel, that classic whale-tail funnel on every Carnival ship. Yeah, it is made of glass. It is really something to see. Now, it is an upcharge, but certainly the steakhouse on board every Carnival ship seems to be worth every bite, that is for sure. Think filet mignon in here, lobster tail, and a wine list that is perfect for a treat-yourself sort of night. And let's not forget, room service is available on all Carnival ships. Late night sandwich, breakfast in bed, 24/7, they do have you covered, including here on the Carnival Miracle. Now, one thing I always like to share with folks, while the menu for a traditional day, right, lunch to dinner and late night, that is all now an upcharge. The one thing that remains included, or as they call it, complimentary on the room service menu, happens to be that beautiful breakfast. That's right. You got yourself an option of some continental breakfast items, from your muffins to your yogurts to your coffee. They will still bring you that included. All you have to do is bring up the QR code scannable that is often on the desk and over near the phone, and you got to call in order to order your room service, but you can do it, and it is included if you know how. That is something I always encourage people to take advantage of, as I certainly still take advantage of on every Carnival cruise. Now, let's talk about my stateroom for a second. I'd say if you're a solo traveler or you're budget-minded in terms of your cruising, Carnival Miracle's interior rooms, they do offer a pretty cozy oasis here with more space than you'd probably expect, about 185 square feet. That's enough room to swing a cat. Not that I'd recommend trying it, but if you want to swing a cat in here, I think you could do it. Expect some super comfy beds. This one was definitely great. Obviously, two twin beds pushed together for a mega bed, as I like to call it. A good closet and storage space in here. I often think, okay, if a family was in here, would they have enough room? I don't know about that. If you're like a family of four, this would probably be very tight for you. However, if you are a couple, you're probably looking at a really great space. Like I said, lots of closet and storage space in here, lots of room to put your things. The private bathroom with strong water pressure, yes, very strong. I did appreciate that. The bathroom itself, very clean, very tidy, not a rank smell attached to it, as I have found on other ships. This one did not have it, even though it is as old as it is. And TVs with cruise channels and, boy, plenty of reruns, that's for sure. If you ever switch over to Nickelodeon, I think they are running shows from like 2019 on there. It's like a block of programming from 2019. And pitch black naps, thanks to the lack of natural light. This is my favorite thing about interior staterooms. Nap lovers rejoice. It is a wonderful place for a siesta. My cabin steward took very good care of me. The floor itself was quite decorative, just like the rest of the ship, and it was a relatively quiet deck as well. I really appreciated that. It felt quite comfortable, quite nice. The temperature inside was always nice and cool. Anywhere I walked on the ship, a very well-maintained vessel, at least in the interior spaces for sure. Let's move along now to pools and hot tubs. The Miracle, it may not have a sprawling water park like many of those other ships do now in the Carnival fleet, but when it comes to relaxing or taking a dip, I'd say she's more than ready to deliver. Now, the main pool, the Ulysses pool, as they call it, located midship on the Lido deck and covered by a retractable roof, so it's perfect rain or shine. This is the heart of the pool scene, and often buzzing with music contests and drink-in-hand cruisers. This is also where all of the fun got kicked off when it came to the sail-away party, right? Dr. Seuss characters arrived in typical fashion. Everybody decided to get themselves a little dance on, and it was a lot of fun for sure. The Serenity Adult Only area, located at the aft of the ship with 2 hot tubs and comfy loungers and 0 kids, by the way. It's really the best part. Serenity indeed, to say the least. Now, on sea days, as always, the Serenity areas get gobbled up real fast, and that was the case here. On sea days, however, those port days, Serenity was often a very plentiful outlet where you could sit and lie wherever you'd like. The Sirens Pool is another option if you want to escape the crowd. A little less rowdy, a bit quieter, and I think it has everything to do with the fact that the awning isn't over it. The awning really does create an acoustics nightmare over by where the stage is and that main pool. So this is an atmosphere where I think it's just less rowdy because of acoustics. A bit quieter, great for a midday float for sure. And lots of hot tubs scattered around the ship and near the pools. There are several hot tubs for a bubbly soak if that's what you are looking for. And a pro tip for you, visit these hot tubs after dinner. Everyone else is at a show. Absolutely. These pools, these hot tubs are so empty at night, and I never know why people don't enjoy the pools and hot tubs in the evening. This is a great time to do it, especially if you don't want to deal with throngs of kids throwing themselves around in those hot tubs and splashing it up. And while it may not compete with mega ship water parks, I'd say the Carnival Miracle's pool areas are pretty thoughtfully spaced, definitely easy to access. They rarely feel overcrowded. I never really felt like it was too much anywhere I went. And I think that really does sort of contribute to the overall feeling of the ship. I said it at the beginning, but this ship is so well designed in terms of like breaking up sections, and this includes the outdoor spaces as well as the indoor spaces. Every section of the ship feels like its own little destination, and I really like that for the sake of managing crowds. Now, if you are looking for a spiraling good time, there are some water slide options here on the ship. Now, certainly, again, there is no water park experience on this ship like there are on many of the newer ones, but the Twister water slide is a signature Carnival slide, a spiraling swoop of fun that drops from deck 11 and twists all the way down. Kids do love it. Adults also seem to love it, even if they pretend that they're just going up to watch the view. I heard that quite a bit. Perfect adrenaline jolt between lunch and nap time, or lunch and second lunch, if that's more your speed. It's pretty much my speed. No judgment on that. By the way, the theming of this ship certainly extends to the various bars and lounges around the Miracle. Red Frog Pub, known for its island vibes, tropical drinks, live music. It's like a Caribbean beach bar, just on a boat, for sure. The Alchemy Bar, it's a fan favorite, no doubt, for all Carnival cruisers. Get your craft cocktails made by white-coated mixologists who really do treat your drink like a science experiment. That is in a good way, of course. Dr. Frankenstein's Lab Nightclub. Yeah, it's a thing. It's part goth, part disco, and 100% unforgettable. Dancing, of course, is encouraged. The Piano Bar, the late-night sing-along spot that is oh so popular. Grab a cocktail, request your favorite Billy Joel song, and get ready to make cruise friends for life in a place like this. I always do. And, of course, the Sports Bar for game day energy, cold beers, and that moment when strangers cheer like lifelong friends. It can all be found here on the Miracle, too. When it comes to entertainment offerings, certainly there's plenty to do on board the Miracle. It is a mid-sized ship, but boy, do they have a packed entertainment schedule. I think it's just Carnival in general, really. Playlist productions, high-energy musical reviews with rotating themes. Some are hits, others are creative. They're always fun, though, these playlist productions. That's one thing that can be counted on, and certainly I saw a different one every single night. The Comedy Club, Carnival's stand-up shows are legit funny. I say this anytime I talk about Carnival. They probably do stand-up comedy better than anybody. They allow folks to get very raunchy. They're both family-friendly and adult-only performances when it comes to the Punchliner Comedy Club. Live music all throughout the ship, from the pool deck to the atrium. You're going to find live bands, acoustic sets, solo singers, keeping the vibe alive in every nook and cranny, especially as the night wears on board the Miracle. No doubt you can enjoy yourself some trivia and games too, whether you're a Harry Potter nerd or a sports stat junkie. Trivia happens daily, and it's oddly addictive, especially when they do The Office. I'm a huge fan. Deck parties, of course. Think line dancing, glow sticks, music under the stars. Go ahead and dance like nobody's watching in this environment. Of course, somebody probably is, but plenty of deck parties happening nightly, as well as you can always do some movies under the stars here, too. Themed nights, expect 80s parties, for example. The formal night glam of it all, and maybe even a hot white night party. Those are becoming more and more popular on Carnival cruises across the fleet. Pack accordingly. These do vary based on how long your itineraries are. So shorter itineraries will have obviously less parties, and so they will only have specific themes, something to look at well in advance of your cruise. Now, this cruise for me was one that ended up being 5 days in total. Took us on down to Cabo San Lucas, and the Cabo San Lucas port, of course, is a tender port, meaning you do have to board a smaller boat just outside of your ship to bring you into the port of Cabo San Lucas itself. Now, the excursion that I did was called Explore Cabo, sightseeing, tacos, tequila, and shopping. This has to be, I think, one of the very best Cabo San Lucas excursions I've ever taken. I've been to Cabo a lot, being on the west coast of California, and often every cruise ship I go on tends to go to Cabo San Lucas. It's a great destination spot. This might be one of my absolute favorite excursions, though, lasting just over 4.5 hours. It's one that gets you sort of in the real Los Cabos. You'll travel in an air-conditioned bus to San Jose del Cabo and Cabo San Lucas and begin with some little walking to visit the Plaza Amelia Wilques Church of San Lucas and learn more about the Kilometer 0.0 and take the perfect selfie for your memories. A lot of history throughout this plaza, a lot of history throughout this area, and it was just this perfect little nook of a town. It was just beautiful. Everybody was so friendly, kind of felt like Old Town Square, for example. We also continued our exploration at a local glass-blowing factory. This is where you can observe the talents of native craftsmen performing their century-old art. This is where they use recycled, lead-free glass. Turn these things into works of art. It really is spectacular. You can buy one or several of their unique finished products as a souvenir. The entire area just glows due to the color in the glass that is absolutely all over the place. View the arid desert setting of the Cape region and the contrasting coastal scenery as you travel north to the colonial town of San Jose del Cabo. Once in town, you're going to be on a guided tour of the Mission Church in Town Square. Your journey continues also down to the famous restaurant Cuervo's House, La Casa de Tequila, an authentic Mexican restaurant owned and managed by Jorge Cuervo. He brought with him from Jalisco to Los Cabos passion for the traditional Mexican cuisine inherited from the Cuervo family. We are talking about that family, by the way, the Cuervo family. Here you will enjoy, just like I did, not only a homemade taco lunch, a lot of great hospitality from his team. You'll also be tasting samples of the best authentic tequila. He gave a great lecture on just how much fake tequila exists in the world now, including the namesake, the Cuervo tequila that is out there. It's unfortunate to hear how it's been bastardized over the course of time and has really lost what made it special. Afterwards, you get some time to browse the local shops and soak up the atmosphere at Plaza Artesanos. I will share with you that for so much movement, right, from one place to another, in a very short period of time, about 4.5 hours, I will say you get a real taste of culture when it comes to this tour, this Explore Cabo Sightseeing Tacos, Tequila, and Shopping Tour. It is one that, for the price of being just under $70 per person, I have to tell you, I felt like it was a tremendous value. It isn't rated as high as it probably should be on the Carnival website. I think it's a 3.5 out of 5. And I see hit and miss reviews based off of what people experienced. And it sounds like not everybody got to meet Jorge Cuervo, and that's kind of a sell point when it comes to this particular experience. So I would be frustrated too. At any rate, it ended up being a fantastic excursion. Definitely one that I would encourage you to try out the next time you visit Cabo San Lucas. The next port of call would take us to Ensenada, Mexico. This is where I was offered narcotics for the first time in my cruise career. Now, this was an environment where I have been off the ship in Ensenada before, and Ensenada tends to be a port of call that many of the major cruise lines tend to call on. And while I have been off the ship before for excursions that have taken me to places inland and around the coastline of Ensenada, and I've never had issues before, this was the very first time that I decided to get off the ship and take a walk just around the port area. So just as soon as I passed the security threshold, right, the security checkpoint into the port, I was about 10 yards away from the guard shack at that point, the security perimeter, when I was approached by two young men, both of which sort of scoped me out at a distance. I could see them. I could see that they were watching me. Both of them approached me and said, "What do you want, my man? Anything you want, boss. Anything you want. You want girls, you want blow, you want weed, just let us know. We will hook you up. We'll take care of you. Where are you going? Where are you going? What are you up to? What are you trying to get into?" And I immediately said, "You know what? was just looking for a friend. I see they're not out here. I don't need any of that. See you guys later. And turned around, immediately went back to the security checkpoint just because I recognized red flag. I was being watched by these two guys. They recognized that I was by myself, and that could have turned into something far more dangerous if I didn't heed sort of the pit in my stomach that I was feeling by that approach. Now, I have to emphasize, this is the area directly outside of the security checkpoint. This is not far from where all the families were walking with me, in front of and behind me, going to a location nearby that had some really tremendous photo ops. A lot of families were getting their pictures taken, as well as a location that had kind of a swap meet going on. This is all right off of the location where we are docked at. So this is something that could easily happen to you, something that I always warn of in a lot of my solo cruise traveling videos. If it doesn't feel right, hightail it out of there, right? Turn around and get back on board. When you are on an excursion, that's a different story, right? You are surrounded by people who are also on an excursion, especially when you do it through the cruise line. That's my, sort of acknowledgement every single time is go through the cruise line when you take an excursion, because when you do that, those excursions are vetted, right? The cruise line knows who is operating them, knows who's in control, and they know that you're there with them. So if you don't return, that's a problem. And the cruise line knows exactly where you were and who you were with. So those things add up in a situation like this. Now, it did spook me just a little bit because of the intensity that both of these guys sort of approached me with. Again, this was broad daylight. It wasn't nighttime or anything like that. This was the middle of the day. And like I said, only just a handful of feet away from the security checkpoint to begin with. So if you ever feel that pit in your stomach and you just recognize this doesn't feel right, it is okay. Hightail it out of a situation, especially when you are in a foreign country and when you are flying solo. It can happen to the best of us. When I got back on board, I did share with security at the checkpoint of the ship, Carnival security that is, exactly what was going on. They seemed very concerned about what was happening. I gave a detailed description of what these two looked like just outside of the security entrance to the port. They said that they would do everything they could to take care of that. So I did not follow up. I did not ask for a follow-up. And so I don't really know what Carnival ended up doing in that situation. I just made sure that they were aware because, again, there were families, there were kids, there were people that were walking through that space, that particular walkway that I was walking through, and no doubt these two were sizing people up as they came through. So again, something to definitely think about prior to your cruise, and making sure that if you want to venture out on your own without a safety net of having a buddy or somebody to rely on, these things can easily happen if you are not prepared for them. Overall, my Carnival Miracle Cruise was just okay. I will say again, I really enjoy sort of the charm of these old school cruise vessels with their really wacky, over-the-top theming. The food was really nothing impressive. I just felt like that kind of flatlined. In addition to that, there were some areas of this ship, even though it's been through recent refurbishments, that were kind of in rough shape by and large. Not every area. A lot of areas were very well kept, but definitely showing its age. And I think that that's to be expected for a vessel that's now, well over 20 years old. So certainly something to consider. I have heard other stories of, staterooms that have stenches to them with vessels of a certain age, and how Carnival, well, they kind of turn a blind eye to it because they really can't fix something like that. I did not have that experience with the stench. In fact, my stateroom ended up being just fine, exactly what I needed. Everybody crew-wise was outstanding. Had a really great crew on the Carnival Miracle. And other than the solicitation of narcotics on the Ensenada cruise stop, that was probably the only real letdown overall. Otherwise, the Carnival Miracle did its job, but brought the fun to me. I really did enjoy getting to know a lot of people throughout this cruise voyage, the nighttime entertainment, the really wacky and I think exciting different lounge spaces were great environments in which to come together, share a drink and just take in some of that live entertainment that Carnival is known for, and of course really enjoying all of the comedy on board. All in all, Carnival Miracle, I don't think it's trying to be the biggest ship or the newest ride in town, because that's not what it is. What she is, though, is charmingly quirky. I think she's well run. I think she's full of fun, especially for travelers who appreciate a more manageable ship size without sacrificing solid entertainment and that classic carnival party spirit. I would say if you're a solo traveler looking for a ship that's lively but not overwhelming, or if you love a good throwback cruise with plenty of personality, I think the Miracle might just be your next great escape. Typically, prices are a lot lower on ships like the Miracle because of their age. And again, didn't really find too much wrong with it. On top of that, I would also say if you are a family looking for a great budget cruise or a couple looking for a getaway, I think the Miracle might be good for you too. Again, just stay away from those cruise ports if you're venturing off on your own, or at least have somebody with you, and go enjoy yourself. Carnival Miracle, definitely an option for you here out of the West Coast and the Long Beach Carnival Hub port. Now let's go ahead and talk dollars and cents for a second. When it comes to Carnival, typically I can get really good drop and go deals just out of my home port here in Long Beach, and I did so on this one for a 5-day to Cabo San Lucas and Ensenada. It's only ended up costing me $498. Anytime you can get a cruise under $100 per day, I look at that as a huge win, a tremendous value by any stretch of the imagination, no matter what sort of ship I'm on. If I can get it under $100 a day, I feel like I kind of win in that category. I don't know about you, but that is what it sits at, $498. And again, that stateroom cabin was just fine. It was comfortable. It was clean. It was everything I needed an interior space to be. However, the same cannot be said for a more premium cruise line brand that I recently sailed on. I had a balcony cabin that was by far the very worst experience I have ever had in a stateroom on any cruise line. And the findings are quite shocking. I want to share that with you here on the right, or if you're interested in more Carnival adventures, Carnival Panorama, the Vista class ship out of this same port here in Long Beach, check out the video on the left. We'll see you next time on the Solo Cruiser.